Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bell with Dr. Javier Montañez, your superintendent here in the Providence Public School. Today we are grateful and pleasant to have our very own Commissioner Angelica Infante-Green sharing some of her wisdoms with us today.
Hi, this is very exciting.
It is. I mean, I have to make sure that I give props where it's due, which is our students here at PCTA who are actually making sure that everything goes well. So I want to say thank you to them as well. Big round of applause for our students. Woo-hoo! Commissioner, we've been working really hard in Providence for the last 5 years. And you and your team at Rhode have come up with an awesome report. Built to learn, built to last, as you can see here.
That's right.
Can you tell me a little more about that report?
Well, if you can recall, because you were a principal in the district at the time, when we first came in to the intervention, we kept hearing about the buildings falling apart and how, the district had not, or the city had not invested in the buildings for a very long time. And this for us was monumental. That was the first step that we took, was really making a commitment to the communities about the buildings.
So let me ask you a question. When you first came into Providence as the commissioner and you went to buildings and visit buildings, what did you think? What did you see? What was the impact on you?
Goodness, I will tell you, there's a couple of places that left an impact on me. Hope High School. I walked into Hope, we had a meeting there, and it was like it was snowing. Pieces of plaster were falling as we were having that meeting, and people were just shaking it off like it was nothing. I couldn't believe it. And then, I can't remember what school it was, there were bats. And then there was a net so the bats wouldn't come down. But bats, there was like poop on the floor. That was just unacceptable, and we couldn't keep the Band-Aid approach. We've been really working really hard on making sure that our buildings, in collaboration with you, that our buildings in Providence are really spectacular. None of that. I remember parents telling me, well, the bubblers, it's brown water coming out of the bubblers, and I'm from New York originally. I didn't know what a bubbler was.
I was going to ask you that. Do you know what a bubbler is now?
I know what a bubbler is. Let me tell you, when they first said that, I was like, what is that?
What is a bubbler?
But I quickly learned, and we replaced all the bubblers.
Yes,
that was one of the first things we did. We have to have a school that the kids can use the water in the building. Like, that was incredible that was the state that we were in.
And I remember one of the initiatives that, you and I had a nice conversation in reference to bubblers and the water and all that. Then we changed the bubblers. And we also made sure that every student in Providence received a water bottle to make sure.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. Because we also got water fillers,
That's
water
right.
filling stations. So yes, and I know that there was a lot of commitment from the district's part to make sure that everybody got a water bottle. Many of the kids still have their water bottles, but it was really a commitment in really the education system in Providence. It's for the teachers, the administrators, the students, the families, that we really cared. And that's what this is all about. I mean, I went to see Windmill, which is now the Narducci.
The Narducci, yes.
Yeah, Windmill had been closed for 10 years. That's, a school that was just sitting there. And we said, no, we have to use this. And the first thing we did is put the building committee back in, because they were not meeting prior to that. And I remember when I came, I met with the city, and they had this long piece of paper where we were going to do a roof in one school, then the next year another roof, and then we would come back and do this. But that was like Band-Aid approaches. And that's not, I think about you talking about, we're going to have the destination for education, and we can't do that if our buildings don't reflect that.
And I appreciate that from you, because you was very headstead on making sure that we gave not only the facility, but the education that all our students deserve.
That's right.
And the Band-Aid effect, it just wasn't working for us. And that was really interesting. And seeing it through, and where we were to where we at and where we'll be in the future with this work, I want to say thank you from all our families in Providence, because of all the hard work and dedication you give to all of our students. So thank you so much.
Thank you. But it's really a team approach. We've done it together, and, we have 6 school buildings that are up and running, new school buildings. If you want to see what this looks like, I mean, we have glass accordion doors that open up into the hallway where teaching is different. Kids are writing on the desk. It is meant for kids to thrive. And that's what we have now. And teaching changes. So I'm really excited and proud. 6 new buildings. We have 10 more projects. You know, every time you hear the superintendent or myself talk, we talk about having 100% of our kids in new or like new buildings.
Yes.
That's important. That's a commitment that very few places can make. But I want to highlight something that you did, Superintendent, that's really important. You know, there's always, when there's change, there's always a little controversy, right?
Yes.
Even when it's things that we want, there's somebody somewhere that wants things to stay the same. And somebody said, well, some of the buildings in other places are like 100 years old and they're still in good condition. But what you did was that you changed the procurement process.
Yes.
And you made it performance-based.
Performance-based.
And what that means for somebody that's hearing that is that if you don't perform, you don't get paid. Because we're really taking care of our buildings. We're really taking care of our spaces. You know, what was happening in the past is not happening today. And that's a real commitment because it's not just the buildings, it's everything around the buildings, it's the instruction, it's the maintenance, it's the upkeep. All that matters.
It does take a lot, Commissioner, to do that because it's not only about building, as it says, build to learn and build to last. It's also about having these buildings and how do we make sure that we maintain these buildings so in 50 years from now, we're not going through this all over again.
That's right.
Because it's a $1 billion investment that the city and the voters and the parents have come out to vote for to make sure that we take care of our students and the facilities. And it's really important that we know that there's a plan in place to maintain them as well. And Commissioner, I want to ask you the next question because we brought up we have 6 now, 10 on the way and more to go. And I know there's a lot of work to continue to happen, but why now?
Why now? Why not now? Right? We've been doing it from day one. From the first day we came in with the intervention, we've been looking at how do we improve our systems, our school. Our building committee started working ASAP. We have parents. Shout out to some of the parents that have been working on this from the very beginning. I know that Melissa Hughes has been part of that work. Ramona was part of that work at the beginning. They were just parents that were really, really committed to seeing this to the end. And I will say that one of the hardest things that happened when I first came here, people were like, well, you know, you're going to give up on us. We're not giving up on anyone. This is about our kids, our community. You know, you can't have a capital city without spectacular schools, right?
Yes.
And that's what we are putting together. And the only way that that happens is if all of these pieces, the instruction, the curriculum, the buildings, the maintenance, all of that works together to deliver on a promise that we all made. And, you know, they've entrusted us, the people here doing the work, and we are delivering on that promise and that trust.
And I love it that you put it like that because I always go back to it takes a village. And it takes all of us. It's not one person cannot do this alone. And I really appreciate many of our partners who have worked with us. And, you know, we talk about our committee, which is the District-wide Advisory Council, which consists of, you know, district members and families. And we also have the Parent Advisory Council that also comes out and we meet monthly to make sure that we continue to home in on the work that needs to continue to do. But Commissioner, I know that this book that we have, the report that you set out with your team at Rhode, we're also looking at the report and it shows that there is a transition from pre-K-8 schools. And my question is, what are the advantages and the opportunities that this provides our students in our schools? Yeah,
you know, interestingly enough, when I first arrived here, there were 21 elementary schools that used to feed into, I can't remember if it was 6 or 7 six middle schools. So you went from these very student-friendly, student-generated, families knew each other, very community-based, and then you went into the middle schools, and our middle schools were our schools that were struggling the most. And the parents were panicked in the 5th grade, like, where's my child going to go? What's going to happen? You know, the continuity. So we listened to the parents. The parents said, we want something different. We don't want to have to go across the city or another place where they don't really know my child. So the advantages of having a pre-K-8 school or a K-8 school is really that the community knows the family, the school community, and the students, and that they have built that. And what happens is that you can even have the older kids be model for the younger kids.
Yes.
You have them read to the younger kids. There's a sense of pride that happens because it's a true community. And those schools, when they're built this way, have really great outcomes. It really becomes a community school where everyone comes to gather, to learn, and they can talk to the teacher in fifth grade. The sixth grade teacher could say, hey, what did you find with this student? How can we help them? All those things happen that don't happen when you leave a building.
And it's amazing that you say that, because I've had the opportunity of being a principal in the district for many years, and I was the principal of 1110 Dual Language Elementary School. And I remember year after year, parents were always asking me, this is a dual language program. Where are my kids going to go after fifth grade?
That's right.
We didn't have the dual language programs in the middle school. Now we have it pre-K through 12.
Yes. I'm
Growing.
glad you brought that up because that is amazing. I remember even talking to you when I first came out. I was like, well, what happens to the kids? And parents wanted continuity, but not just for the dual language, but across the board. But the fact that you're highlighting that we have dual languages, K to 12, in Providence, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
And in multiple places, not just in one school.
Right.
We have it throughout the district. That's really about ensuring that all our kids have opportunities, that kids are able to keep their home languages, but kids that don't speak another language learn another language.
Absolutely.
Because we can't afford not to have that. The world has gotten smaller. Technology has brought us all closer together. And what our kids need is opportunities.
And it's when we talk about dual language and learning multiple language, it is extremely important. I remember when I was a principal at the dual language school, and I did a summer program. I had a student that knew 10 languages, and I said, "How is this possible?" And he actually was able to explain it, and it's amazing. And the reason, and as we continue to think about how we continue to improve the opportunities for our students within the district. And I know, like 5 years ago, when I first started as a superintendent, I made a comment. And I always come back to it. I keep saying, Providence become the destination for education. And at that time, many individuals looked at me kind of weird, like, what are you saying? But you know what? I'm so excited because we are well on our way with all the work that we're doing. And I want to pivot a little bit from the facilities. Now let's pivot into the academics, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Since the pre-pandemic, since the takeover or the intervention, we as a district have improved in our ELA and our math. Can you just speak about that a little bit?
Oh my gosh, absolutely, because this warms my heart. Providence is a place that even during the pandemic, we're able to open. We're able to, have classes, really met the needs of the kids. And, there was a big blip for everyone nationwide during the pandemic, right? Kids, it was a very difficult time for us. Forget the nation, worldwide. And what we have seen is that Providence keeps moving forward. And now you've exceeded your pre-pandemic numbers, which a lot of people in the nation have not been able to do that. So I'm incredibly proud of the work that everybody's doing. I feel very honored to be able to work with you and your team and our teams together and the families and the community at large to make sure that we do have a great education system. I will say the other day, and people don't know our relationship, but we sit down and I look at things that the superintendent brings and I'm like, what? The other day he presented something and I had to look at it like 3 times and say, is this correct? We've been focused on academics and chronic absenteeism. If the kids are not in school, the academics can't get better. As soon as the chronic absenteeism has gotten better, the academics have gotten better. And I looked at the data and where the district is now in terms of their chronic absenteeism, it is much lower than it was pre-pandemic, but forget about pre-pandemic. We were talking about 17, 18.
Yes.
Lower than 17, 18.
Yes.
Like that is an accomplishment. Yes. And the number of AP courses, the kids taking AP courses has increased enormously, but not only taking them, but actually passing them, getting a 3, 4, and 5. That is unbelievable. I have to tell you that I don't think people know the great things that are happening here.
And those are, setting expectation. I'm a true believer that if you set an expectation for the students, high expectation, they will meet it with the supports, right? And it's, once again, it's a team, because we work together, we think about things together, what initiatives, how can we do it? We push it forward. And that's really amazing, because if we start that early enough, our students will be at grade level by third grade in reading. That's a very point where we really analyze, because that's an indicator of graduation.
That's right.
So we start looking at how we can do all this work. And once again, when we look at chronic absenteeism, as a team, as a district, that's 28 percentage points lower than what it was.
Yeah, I think, yes.
So that's,
Yes.
when you start looking at those numbers, then you ask yourself, where were you? And how did you do it? And there's a lot of individuals involved in making sure that chronic absenteeism, because it's a district initiative, but we have individuals that are constantly knocking on doors, making phone calls. What are the issues? Why is it that you're not making it to school? How can we support? And that's how we started this. And, and I want to say thank you to all the teachers, because when we talk about the AP classes, we have the teachers to say thank you. We have to say thank you to our parents, and especially our students who are actually saying, let's do this work together. And they're showing up. And when I say the third grade going into graduation, our graduation rates are up as well.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I have to tell you that, and when I first came, one of the things that a parent said to me once was, well, what are you going to do for the high school students? It's great that you're working with the lower grade kids, but the graduation rates have changed,
Yes.
Superintendent.
Yes.
The way that we're looking at the offerings, like your CTE programs, I have to tell you, one of my joys at the end of the year is when we also have the signing day where Electric Boat
Yes.
hires about 100 of your students.
Yes.
And the number of CTE programs that are here that were not here before. I mean, this is a thriving school system. And it's, I have to tell you, there's a lot of pride. There's a lot of
Yes.
pride. It hits home.
Yes.
This is a different school district.
It's not who we were. We're not in the same place. And I want to make sure that everyone out there, all the families and our students and our teachers and educators and everyone in our community to understand that we're not where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And we still know there's still a lot of work to be done.
Absolutely.
However, data does not lie. You can't refute this data because it's in our face, and it says that we as a district are moving in the right direction. That's why when I say we become the destination of education, we're knocking on the door.
Yeah,
They're going to have to open that door for us.
that's right. And there's a lot of work to still be done. But what we've done is laid the infrastructure, right? We have that base, a very strong base. And there's a couple of other things to do. But I will tell you that you went from, I think it was 19, how many CTE programs did you
We
have?
started at 9.
Nine.
Then we started at 9. Now we're at 29. And by August, we'll be at 33.
My goodness, that's great.
It's
so
awesome.
exciting.
Awesome work. It's
exciting. It's exciting because that's opportunities for our kids.
Absolutely. Multiple pathways. It's not this or that. It's both. You can use CTE to make your way into colleges. For example, you mentioned Electric Boat to sign on. When they sign on there, they also get the opportunity not only to earn, but they also have the opportunity to grow and use that to go to college or
That's
vice
right.
versa.
That's right.
It's not one or the other.
That's right. That's right. And we're big as a state on that. Like the state of Rhode Island has made major investments in CTE, in school construction, in secondary regs, really changing what it looks like. And I will tell you, Superintendent, on our NAEP scores, which is the national assessment, fourth grade reading, we went from being 25th in the nation in 2019 to now being 14th. And we can't do that as a state without Providence because you have the majority of the kids. Let me tell you something.
Just a little bit of pressure, Commissioner. Just a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, I'm good at that. I'm good at putting pressure. But it's the truth,
Yes,
right?
yes.
As a state, we have moved, and that is pretty impressive, right? Like I think that we need to focus in on the good things that are happening and keep moving in that direction. And that work can't happen without our partnership. And leadership. Leadership matters, Superintendent, and continuity of leadership matters. When you have a revolving door of leaders, it becomes very difficult to continue initiatives and build strong foundations. And this is your fifth year, right?
Fifth year.
Fifth year, and you've laid a foundation and you have to keep building on it. And that matters. Continuity of leadership is extremely important as we keep moving forward. And I think one of the things that was pretty interesting for me with one of the parents when we first named you, and I know when we named the superintendent, he had no idea what he was getting into. He had no idea. He came in all happy. And then when he saw everything, he was like, what?
It was a culture shock.
Yes, it was. But you rose to the occasion, right? You rose to the occasion. And I think what stuck with me is that one of the parents said to me, he is Providence, Commissioner. And that is really how you move in this world, yes, right? Yes. You lead in that way that it really matters. So for me, as we do this work, there's a sense of responsibility to the students, the community, to everyone, and to you. Superintendent.
And don't forget the urgency behind it.
That's right.
And that's really important. And Commissioner, I'm going to go back a little bit to when we started this conversation earlier today, and you spoke about when you walked into Hope, right? And you're saying that I am the community. I remember being a student at Hope. I remember the flakes.
Yeah.
And that's in the early 80s. I won't say my age, but in the early 80s. So I understand where we were to where we at and where we continue to move forward to. Commissioner, I have another question that I would like to veer a little bit away from, which is the CSI school, the comprehension schools. Let's think about why was it so important to look at CSI schools?
Well, for us, it was really important because those are the schools that are in the lowest 5% of the state. And what we do is that Rhode, as an entity, not just the intervention, but across the state, we go into those schools and those districts to try to provide support. And what was done was a lot of redesign, right? That's where you got a lot of these amazing, amazing schools that are, taking off and doing amazing things. That's part of the work that happens. What can we do to really push those schools to accelerate the learning that's happening? I think one of the hardest things that, when you walk into some of these schools is the kids have struggled for so long that people forget the potential that the kids have.
Yes.
You got to believe that the kids can do more. And people didn't believe that before, but they believe it now. I walk into the buildings and people believe that they can do better. And that's a hard thing to change. Yes. When you don't, if you think a kid can only achieve silver, that kid will achieve silver or nothing, right? But now we are like competing. I see teachers pushing kids. I see students pushing themselves. And that's a big culture shift.
Yes. It's a big paradigm shift in thinking that a student can't do something, so let's water it down so they can meet that low expectation versus, no, I'm going to hold my high expectation and you're going to rise to that expectation with the support.
Right, with the support. I think the support has been really important. And I think you've also, Providence, as we've been working together, we've been looking at innovation. We brought in the VR sets to do math and we saw it come alive in the classrooms. Now you're doing modern classrooms. For those of you that don't know, it's a math program that if you're in 8th grade, but you're missing a couple of skills, it'll help you with those skills that you're missing while you're still doing 8th grade work. And that's pretty amazing. So there's things that are happening that are at the individual student level, where people are looking at student data, really looking at how do I help Javier get to that next level? Absolutely. Not how do I help the whole class, because that is our job. But people would teach to the middle, and you can't teach to the middle. You got to find a way to individualize instruction, and that's a really difficult thing.
Yes, it is.
It's a very difficult thing. Kudos to the teachers that work every day to do that. But Providence has been doing that for a while now, and we see it. We see it in the results. You also did some things that were pretty amazing, like coming to school during the break.
Oh, yes.
That's right. We didn't think, I remember the day we were like, all right, we're going to open up the school during the April break?
April break.
That was the first time, and we're like, oh, will anybody come? We don't know. We're sure. And they came. And they
Oh,
came.
and they were knocking on those doors, let me in. And I remember
Yeah.
having some students that the parents would come back and says, they have the week off and they're waking up in the morning and said, take me to school.
That's right.
Take me to
That's
school. That tells me, A, that we're turned around. B, we're doing the right work. C, we're making the place home for our
Yes.
kids. They want to be there. So that was really, really amazing to see that and then develop from there.
Well, even more so, I remember a conversation with some principals, middle school principals, that they were like, but I want it in my school. I want the program in my
Yes,
school. I
yes,
don't
yes.
want my kids to go to that school.
Absolutely.
And during the break, I want them to come to my school. And then we worked it out. But to see principals like arguing about really having break open for their schools, or well, not arguing, but negotiating that, that was a pretty powerful day, I have to say.
Yes. You know, it's like I say, you know, you set them up for success. We have to set each other up for success to make sure that at the end of the day, you know, I've always say my nuclear is students. And I want to make sure that everything we do has an impact on students and student outcomes. So how do we continue to do that with the support of everyone as a team, bringing it all together? Commissioner, I have one last thing I want to ask you. We have so many young families in Providence, and RISE also helped us to make sure that we do the work to transform our education. And with your support and your guidance and spearheading all the work that we do, you know, I think about all the programs that we did for early education, right? We had early education programs. We have our special education programs, new special education programs. Why was that so important to you, to making sure that we met those needs?
Well, you know, we have to have a strong foundation. We almost tripled the number of pre-K programs in Providence. And that's pretty impactful for us. So much so that, I mean, we had waiting lists. And we have to give kids the opportunity to start early. It's important for them to get an early start and to be able to have these skills. And you know, people might think, well, they're playing. Yeah, playing is learning. Playing is learning. Conversations, negotiation skills. They learn how to be creative. That starts at an early age. And that's important for us to have those early building blocks. And I will say that there's so many opportunities now and so many different ways of seeing how kids are learning in Providence that if anyone wants to feel good, they should walk into one of those pre-K classrooms.
Oh, yes.
If you want to be filled, because those kids will talk to you about everything and anything.
No filter.
That's right. No filter, but you can hear them thinking almost. You could see them like trying to negotiate language. It's pretty amazing. And I will say, the parent academies that you have, I will say that they should sit with you and talk to you for hours. But I am very proud of the work that's here. I am very proud of being able to do it alongside you and your team. And this is, you know, this is just the beginning, guys. This is amazing things. There's still more amazing things to come. And, you know, when I just saw those level 3, 4, or 5 on AP, I was like, what?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And we have AP courses at all middle schools now as well.
Woohoo. Show
every
off.
every
Show
child
off.
has the no. But every child deserves the high quality education, regardless of their zip code.
That's right.
So we want to make sure that that's so. Once again, Commissioner, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be here with us today. It's amazing to hear from you. Amazing to hear how the hard work that we're doing together. This report that we have that's coming out from Rhode,
Yep.
It's awesome. So I want to say thank you once again, and to all our followers out there, thank you once again for joining us on Beyond the Bell with Dr. Javier Montañez, your superintendent here in the Providence Public Schools. Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.